When I visited Moscow, I went to Moscow only once in my life. I stayed in a hotel close to the Kremlin and to the Red Square. I was able to walk across to the Red Square. And I lectured at the State University of Moscow. And they were surprised to hear our eschatology in that lecture. The Quran also speaks positively about the followers of Jesus and says about them something remarkable. And I want to share that with you today. It says that at that time in history, when the Jews are most hostile of all to you, and at that time when another people whose very foundation is heresy and blasphemy, shirk, when they also are waging war on us and showing immense hatred, war on Islam, at that time, says the Quran, listen carefully in Russia, at that time you will find, says Allah to us, He says, you will find that those who will be closest in love and affection for you, Muslims, would be a people who declare, we are Christians. So these are not secularized Christians whose primary loyalty is to their national identity. We are Americans, we are French, we are British, and whose religious faith is secondary, it's private, secularized Christians. No, these are a different kind of Christians whose primary identity is their faith. They're not secularized. These are a Christian people who still have the priesthood intact. And the priest occupies a position of great importance in society. These are a people who still have the institution of monasticism intact. And they cherish the monastery. And they cherish the monastic way of life. And finally the Quran says, and they're not arrogant. And they are not an arrogant people. They don't want to rule the world. That's Russia today. And so, you'll be surprised listening to me in Moscow that our Quran is saying that you would be closest in love and affection to us one day. When will that day come? I want to share with you now something more about the Great War that you may not have known before, and you may hear of it for the first time now. When I visited Moscow, I went to Moscow only once in my life. I stayed in a hotel close to the Kremlin and to the Red Square. I was able to walk across to the Red Square. And I lectured at the State University of Moscow. And they were surprised to hear our eschatology in that lecture. That after the Great War, the next event that our Prophet has prophesied in the timeline of events of the end time, the next event to occur will be the conquest of Constantinople. Russia has been longing and longing and longing for Constantinople since the Ottoman Empire took it away, conquered Constantinople in 1453. It's not our purpose in this lecture to analyze that event of 1453. We've done it in other lectures. But from that day to this day, the hearts of the Orthodox Christian people have been weeping, and the hearts of those who proudly followed the Ottoman Empire been filled with pride with the victory of the Ottoman Empire over these infidels. They call them infidels. And the Lord God gave to these Muslims a mission to wipe out these infidels and to wage eternal war on the Christians. That's the kind of stuff we got from the Ottoman Empire. No one can challenge me on that. They're proud of their victories. But in the wake of the bogus jihad of the Ottoman Empire, bitterness and hatred for Islam came to the hearts of the Orthodox Christian people and the Russians, because the Ottomans waged endless wars on Russia. And so the only Islam you ever knew was the Islam that came from the Ottoman Empire. So how wonderful it must be today for you to listen to another Islam, which doesn't come from Ottoman Islam. It comes from the Book of God, from the Quran, and they cannot challenge the